Hey, I'm Zehnder, a fourth generation Lutheran Church Missouri Synod ordained pastor. And I care about our church. I care about our denomination. And this video is titled, When You Have Great Theology, but No One Left to Teach It. Because that is what I believe the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod is on a fast track to see that sad statement come to reality. I have a unique distinction of not only being in ministry ordained, but running a business as well. And so I have kind of a church ministry eyes and a business set of eyes on what's happening in our church body. And a couple of events have come out lately that it's just getting harder and harder to just stand by and sit by and say nothing. And so this is my attempt at saying something. Let's go back, though, to something that I think objectively all of us can probably agree on, and it's this, that there was an industry that was once thriving that no longer is, that I don't think any of us would say, like, we're going to invest in that, and we think that's the best thing, and it is called the newspaper industry. So if you're over 20 years old, you know what I'm talking about. You know what a newspaper is. And you know how important that was back in the day to receive the news in that fashion. You'd open the newspaper up and you'd maybe do the crossword puzzle. You'd look at the box scores from the sports section, get the ads from the grocery store, and catch up on what happened the previous day. When the internet came around, all of a sudden people began consuming news in different ways. And now with so many video options and so many websites available, news is just spread in a lot more complicated, complex, diverse options today. The reason I bring that industry up is not only because I think all of us can objectively agree like that was a thing of the past. I think secondly, the reason I bring it up is because if you look at the metrics, the chart, the data of how many people subscribe and read the newspaper still, they're shockingly very similar, mirror, and in some cases, they're even worse when you look at what are the faith metrics in our nation, in our denomination, that are important. And sadly, those metrics are strikingly similar. And I'm taught from a business perspective to look at data in an objective way. And one of the things that you do in business is if you see all of this data moving down and down and down and down, is you're forced then to think of new ways to do things. Because if you just do what you've always done, you're going to keep going down and eventually you're not going to have a business or you're going to die. And I would say the same is true of us in our Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. If we do not reinvent or do things in a new way that matches the time that we live in, man, our death is coming quicker than you think. And one of the trends that, again, that matches and is even worse than the newspaper industry is the amount of pastors that are being formed from our two residential seminaries, St. Louis and Fort Wayne, that in the last week have been doubled and tripled down on as, quote, the gold standard and the only really acceptable form, the best form of pastoral formation that we have. When I'm looking at the market and I'm looking at the data and I'm saying, you may think it's the gold standard. I went through it. I loved it. I had a great experience with it. And it might have been the gold standard 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. But the market is speaking loudly that there is not interest in the residential programs in these two cities to sustain an entire denomination. And so then you threw free tuition out and the market's still saying, I'm not interested in that type of pastoral education and formation. And so my question then is, are we going to listen to the market or are we going to just accept that downward trend and eventually have really great theology, but no one left to teach it? A couple of weeks ago, my very good friend Tim Ahlman, who did not ask me to make this video and did not encourage me to make this video, I'm doing this of my own accord, was asked to apologize for creating dissent on his podcast. He was asked to apologize because he was talking about and raising questions of, are there potentially more effective ways, more effective methods to raise pastors in our day today that are outside of the two residential seminary program offerings? Can we not think of more diverse, more options, more digital, more localized, more regionalized ways? And rather than the church body seeing Tim for what he is, who he is, a leader of leaders and someone who cares about the synod and someone who's actually raising up lay leaders who are men and women in Lutheran education in all fields, and also the hope that some of these might actually want to be pastors and take the LCMS into the future, rather than asking him like what worked, what didn't work, and how can we tweak this and make it better and make it more affordable. Rather than doing that, Tim, you need to apologize and you will be silent and you cannot speak on this anymore. And so my question and my plea is, are we allowed to even have these conversations? Silence has never been effective when we talk about promoting change. You don't silence the ones that are probably the ones that are most able to bring change. You give them a voice. And might it be that when we give them a voice, there might actually be other ways to form pastors than the quote gold standard? Can we have these conversations or not? It feels super dysfunctional to not even be able to talk about this when we're looking at these charts and we're not only seeing them going down, down, and down, which is really frustrating and depressing for our denomination and its future, but also knowing that those numbers that keep going down and down and down means that less and less and less people will even be able to teach this incredible Lutheran theology, which means less people will be able to hear about a God who loved them so much that he sent his one and only Son, that when we believe in him and receive his gift of grace, not by works, but by faith, that we might enter into heaven. So, thank you, Tim Ahlman, for being a leader. Thank you for standing up and speaking. And I pray that we can continue in the LCMS to have a voice, that we can speak into and talk about when things don't go well. Let's brainstorm, let's get together, let's be entrepreneurial, let's figure this out. Let's not silence the voices, but let's let our leaders speak so that we have a future as a church body.